our brewery, and then we'll come right back with Inside the.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will. Guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind. TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Win FM 98.9. We are here on Inside the News. I'm Jermaine Abel, sitting in again. This week it's a cold, rainy day out in Bastille. And we have 3 cruise ships in today. Yes, 3 cruise ships. And we're going to be diving into some of the big stories that made the news this week. And also, we're going to be hearing a bit from our good friends from the fire department this morning. Yes. You know, when I'm here on Inside the News, we tend to go beyond the talk of politics. We look to go inside the story, get a better understanding of how this impacts you, the people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, possible consequences of those decisions, and so much more. Right? We want to have a cordial discussion on major issues here, and this week we had some major topics that were focused, that we heard in the news across all spectrums here in St. Kitts and Nevis. You know, so we're going to dive into some of those stories today, and then we're going to be hearing from Timothy Martin, Deputy Fire Chief. So I have with me right now in studio from WINNFM's newsroom, Miss Yolanda Weeks. Miss Weeks, we missed you last week. But that's another that's another discussion.
Certainly another discussion. It's wonderful to be here. Good morning,
okay,
everyone.
We hear you. We'll get that sorted out in a sec. We'll get that sorted out in a second. But we will also yes, we'll get that sorted out in a second. And then we'll continue with the program here on Win FM.
People make the world go
And yes, we've gotten that sorted. So, yes, so once again, we'll try this with Miss Yolanda Weeks. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jermaine. Good morning to the listening public.
Good. And we have with us Mr. Martin. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Mr. Abel. Good morning, Miss Weeks.
Good
Yes,
morning.
And good morning
yes.
to the listening audience.
So we're going to be discussing first. We're going to be discussing some of the major stories that happened this week here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So Miss Weeks, what are some of the major topics that we saw being reported here in St. Kitts and Nevis for the week, especially, seeing that you're in the newsroom a lot here at WINNFM. So what were some of the major talking points for the week?
Okay, the week began, well, at least here at WINNFM, the week began with, I would say, majorly on Monday, the traffic stats. The Sergeant Henry and the Inspector Phipps from the traffic department, they were here on Island T, and they gave some traffic stats, and it was very alarming. So that was major on Monday. And then later down in the week, we heard from the DPP, we heard from Conris Maynard and Duncan Big Lice Watley, and that was probably the major story this week, the major happening this week. And we also heard from Dwyer Astafan with his view on CBI and the minister's part to play in how CBI is functioning at this point. And over on Nevis, Mark Brantley meeting with over 300 investors at the Four Seasons Resort. So those were big stories this week.
Okay, let's start with the first one that you talk about. And, we also have the fire officer here from St. Kitts. We heard roughly a 7% increase in vehicular accidents for 2023, right? Are you concerned? Let's start with Mr. Martin here first. Are you concerned, as someone who's been integral and has been dealing with this, you guys respond to a lot of the calls to deal with this. When you hear a 7% increase in accidents throughout St. Kitts and Nevis, people might be wondering, how does this impact the fire service in general? Are you concerned with hearing statistics like this?
Yes, it is a concern for the fire department, because with each accident that occurs, it means that somebody's life is possibly at risk. Granted that there are minor accidents, but then you do have the major ones. And we just want to encourage the general public to be more vigilant on the road. A lot of the times our devices might play a part in these accidents. Some of us, we drive and we tend to want to make a call or even send a text while driving, etc. Gazing as well too. It only takes a split second for you to take your eyes off the road, maybe looking at something that is happening on the side, and then you collide with a vehicle that is in front of you, not realizing whether or not someone has pressed their brakes, and you did not react in time to stop your vehicle behind of them. And some of these rear-ended collisions, it impacts drivers, because then there is this the whiplash effect, where persons get neck injuries, etc. Some persons, they might not feel it right away, but then sometime later down the road it takes effect. So any kind of accident that takes place is a concern for the fire department. And like I said, we just want to encourage the motorists to be more vigilant on the road.
Okay. So, Yolanda, when we talk about these statistics, right, and you're someone who go deeper into the news, are you concerned? Because I know these are things that you guys report on a regular basis, right? Are you concerned when you see these statistics showing a significant increase, especially in the Bastille area, and then you keep hearing the police and the fire service urging people to be more vigilant, drive more carefully on the road? and so forth. Do you think we are actually adhering to that?
Okay, German, like you rightly said, I am more deeply connected to the stats, to the information being presented because I'm a part of the news team. I get details that maybe some people have never seen or heard before. But yes, it's a concern when you're doing the news and you have to deal with stats. Some mathematics come into play. So, for instance, like for 2023, we had 1,888 traffic accidents in St. Kitts and Nevis. And the year before, we had 1,756. So when we did the maths, we recognized that it was a 7.5% increase, of course, and I think a difference of 100 and something, right? A difference of 100 and something, wherein a difference of 100 something is equivalent to what the different districts would have in terms of accidents. So it's alarming. We had 6 road fatalities last year. The fire department was present on some of those scenes, using the jaws of life to extricate people. So it is alarming, and sometimes it could also impact us as journalists, seeing these things year after year after year, having to deal with these things. I can recall this one standing out in my mind, Natalia Tav Newton over in Nevis. That was a 21-year-old female. And of course, in Halfway Tree last year, we had Lashley Weeks, a 15-year-old. They do play on the minds of us as journalists. So we have to report these things. They are sad stories.
And you made a valid point there, because I can remember last year we were doing a training session in Miami, and the general consensus coming out of that, because you don't put media people in a room and expect them and give them a time limit and expect them to stick to that time limit, and that's what happened. And one of the things that came out of it was the mentality of the journalists after they would have been reporting these issues day in, day out, and you keep reporting on the same issues and you keep seeing all of these trends. And yes, you have some personal connection to it after a while. But when you keep reporting these issues and you see people are still doing the same thing all the time, so Martin could also attest to that, because that is why you guys keep holding these sessions, especially with children, for example, to prevent house fires, right? After a while, it gets to you and it kind of irritates the fact that you keep repeating the same thing over and over, and people are not gravitating or they're not learning from that. And when you see these statistics, it plays on your mind after a while.
That's true. And well, the media is doing its part, doing its best in getting the information out there, helping the police to get the information out there. But as we see here, it is getting worse and worse year after year. 2021, 1,664, 2022, 1,756, 2023, 1,888. So over the years, continue to increase.
So Marty, what more do you think that we can do in St. Kitts and Nevis to get the message over to people? Because the bottom line is there are two topics here, two broad headings that people argue that contribute to this: driving under the influence and speeding. How do we get the message over to these people? I know you're
and driving without due care and attention. That was number 2, actually.
Well, I think the two would fall into that broad category. I would suspect, right? But how do we get this message over to people, especially the young people? Because, as they say, there's a need for speed.
All right. So what I would say to that is maybe we can look at starting at the driving instructors. Having them be more, they know what they're about. They're teaching persons how to maneuver these vehicles on the road, etc. But maybe adding a bit of value to the lessons would be like, the fact that the do's and the don'ts, what you should not do regarding your cell phone, instill, because there are a lot of young people who wants their license. So you're seeing more and more young persons wanting to go out and get a license. So if you gravitate to them at that stage, or maybe even younger when they're in school, have maybe sessions, traffic sessions, with the preteens, entertain the teenage years, and teach them the value of the do's and the don'ts when it comes to driving. To encourage them not to drink and drive. When it comes to social media, don't be on the phone, because a lot of persons they're driving and they're actually videoing, sending messages out to the social media platform. Hey, we on this line, etc., etc. And these can be very, very dangerous things for drivers to do. So I would say, in order to curb this, reach them at a young age, start in the schools, lessons on driving in terms of the do's and the don'ts. Just having casual conversation with them. When they're going for their license now, the instructors and them could reinforce these messages in terms of, hey, the do's and the don'ts again. And then, of course, the services, whether it be police, fire, etc., through medias like these, would echo the same sentiment. So they keep hearing that message from a young age going forward.
But you see, and you made that valid point there about the instructors and the officers who carry out the road tests. That's one of the things that they do, At least I could only speak from my experience in terms of
going into the schools.
Not necessarily in schools, right? But when you pass your driving test, one of the things that you have to go through is the fact you will hear the officer. They don't tell you whether or not you pass or fail, because this is based on my experience. They give you this, as someone described it, lecturing about what to do and what not to do on the road. Do not drink and drive, do not speed, wear your seat belt, and all of that. They do that.
But they hear it in that moment. But if you have that over the years from first farm right up, it should be cemented by time they get their license. And I think that is what Martin is saying.
I agree. I agree with that, because for me, it's never enough to reiterate a point to somebody, especially when they're young, right? And hopefully it sticks. Hopefully by the end of 2024, we'll see the statistics. We'll see the statistics drop significantly.
But Jeremy, you can recall they speaking about, I think it probably was the AG Garth Wilkins speaking about a demerit point system or something like that.
Yes.
And that he said they would try to introduce that, and I think it had something to do with if an individual got into accidents on several occasions, they have a point
as well,
some sort of points, and after they've reached that limit, their license would be taken away, and then they'll have to go back and enroll in driver's lessons in order to get their license reinstated. But I'm not so sure if I have seen that.
No, I don't think any moves would have been made in that regard to get that done.
That is something that I think is necessary as well.
Yeah.
So do you also support the notion, because I saw a press statement from the Information Service based on what the DPP said on his interaction on a program recently, that he's also pushing for stiffer penalty for people who are driving without due care.
Yes, he said it on In Focus on Wednesday.
Right. And do you guys support that as well? Because
I am in support of it, but right now the penalty, I think, is up to 5 years imprisonment. But sometimes people...
That is for what exactly?
Driving, I think I have it here. causing death by
Causing death.
reckless driving or dangerous driving, right? Causing death. So I think that, yes, it is a good idea, but if the justice system don't really act upon it, then it's a different story. Because we have seen some people, I'm not calling any names, but we have seen some people over the years cause death by dangerous driving, and we don't really see anything coming out of it. And sometimes these cases take forever to be called, to be heard, right? But surprisingly, the same case with Natalia Tav Newton, the driver, he was sentenced just a few days ago, right? And he was sentenced to 6 months in prison. And after he would have served his 6 months, then he will go into, I think, 17 months without a driver's license. He has to go back and do some driving lessons and all of that before he get his license back, right? But that is just one in many, right? That is just one in many. And we have seen people getting knocked down every minute. Sometimes they don't make the news, but we see the videos and pictures in circulation, right? What happened to these situations? What become of them?
Well, as you mentioned that, but before
Remember
we go
the
to
elderly lady in Nevis? She got knocked down
Yes.
last year.
Before we go to bed, I just want to make the point that, we get these press statements from the police on the level of accidents occurring in St. Kitts and Nevis, and they're almost on a daily basis. So, but we'll come right back and continue with the discussions here on Win FM 98.9. You're with Inside the News here on Win FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Win FM 98.9. You're with us here on Inside the News. It's still raining outside. I trust everyone is staying dry and comfy as we discuss the major topics, major news, issues affecting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have in studio journalist Yolanda Weeks. and Deputy Fire Officer, Fire Chief Timothy Martin with us here, and we are diving into the critical issues impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We're taking a review of some of the major stories for the week here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And we're going to be discussing some other issues as well. I want to go over to Mr. Martin to get his perspective in terms of fire issues here in St. Kitts and Nevis and what it was like. I know he may not have the statistics at hand, but what are some of the fire issues he would have seen coming out of 2023? Because that was a very busy year. Because from my perspective, I've seen the fire service up and down both Bastille and the St. Peter's area.
All right, so I like you rightfully said, I don't have the statistics to share with the listening audience today. However, if you tune into Fireproof next week, then you would get a clearer grasp as to the figures, the numbers that we are looking at regarding fires that we attended last year. When it comes to the various fires, I mean, we normally see bush fires ahead of all fires. That is the fire that is most prevalent throughout the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We always encourage persons, not to light fires indiscriminately. Persons, they tend to think that, lighting something in their backyard is quite simple. It's in the yard. They don't have to seek any permission of any sort. But these fires can indeed spread and cause severe irritation to others. A number of calls that we have received as well were smoke disturbances, where persons, as I say, light fires in the yard to burn a little trash here or there, but then their neighbors are being affected. Now you have a number of persons who are asthmatic. They have various respiratory ailments, problems. And when persons just get up and light fires indiscriminately, it affects their neighbors. So even to the point where sometimes you just finish washing a fresh load of clothes and you put them out on the line, and here comes your neighbor just lighting fires without even giving you a heads up that, hey, well, tomorrow I have intentions of doing a little burning in my yard. So it prepares you, not to do certain things if you and them have that close relationship. So yes, it affects persons in the community in a number of ways. So we want to ask persons to desist from that practice. The fire department, we no longer give permission for persons to light fires in the backyard. We asking persons to get rid of their trash in a proper way. The landfill, I must add, is a very cheap way of getting rid of your garbage. Instead of dumping your garbage in areas like guts, in the cane fields, etc., which poses a hazard, a very serious hazard, an environmental hazard. So we do not just look at it, hey, because we're firefighters, we focus on just the firefighting aspect of it. We give it a more holistic view. We look at the environment, how it impacts the community, etc., before we make decisions such as these as to, don't give anybody any permission to burn any fires. Yes, go ahead.
Well, make it one, and then I'll ask the question.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to touch on that, but I know last year specifically in terms of the environment and the other works that you do. But last year, the fire service was extremely busy in the sense that you guys were assisting, especially I can speak for my area. You guys were busy in terms of taking the water and supplying water to communities that were affected by the dry period, because we ended last year with technically a 40% deficit in rainfall. How did you guys balance doing that and still undertaking your usual duties, which would be, fighting fires?
We have been assisting water department. Water department is the main source of distributing water throughout the federation. St. Kitts rather, well, St. Kitts Nevis, yes. However, in St. Kitts we have had the challenge of the water issues. We have been facing a drought, and the reservoirs, etc., tends to go low at some point in time. So the certain communities, they had that great challenge of getting water. So the fire department was called upon to assist in rendering humanitarian services. So that is a service that we also provide to the general public. When any situation that arises and we see the need that we can assist, we do lend humanitarian services. And we had to there have to be a bit of balance when it comes to that. So our times of water distribution would be whether early in the morning or sometimes in the evening when persons have already returned home from work, so that they will be able to maximize getting the water that they need. As if we go in the middle of the day, then persons at work, they're not there to capture the water that we are there to deliver to them. So that was two main times that we focused on in terms of delivery. Of course, if we are delivering water and there is a fire, that takes priority. So we would cease the delivery of water, deal with arresting that fire, and then we could always resume back to going to the community and delivering water. So there was always that balance.
This has been a topic that has long been discussed, but not a lot of people fully understand this particular topic. But we talk about this whole issue of climate change and how this is affecting every aspect of Caribbean life. And one of the issues that came out, or one of the topics that came out of this, was heat and its impact on how the fire service is carrying out its duties, how it's putting a strain on the operations and resources of the fire service. So you talk about the whole water in terms of a balancing act in terms of providing a service to communities that are in need of water, so you have to ferry water back and forth. Then you also have to carry out your duties in terms of fighting fires when duty call. But then at the same time, you have to deal with a heat situation. So you guys are working and then you have to do this. How are you guys balancing all of this in terms of resources, managing the resources, taking the weather condition into consideration and all of that? Do you guys need to have new equipment to balance the heat in terms of fighting fires during the course of the day? It's also hot in the evenings. How are you guys balancing all of this, taking into consideration climate change?
So there is no way basically of working around the heat. We go fight fires, we have to face that heat. What we do though, we encourage our officers to hydrate themselves, drink plenty fluids. Whenever they're doing, let's say they're in the overhauling process, like they have already dealt with the bulk of the fire, they can remove the bunker gear top so that it affords them a bit more breeze, so to speak, to be able to continue what they're doing. So in dealing with the fire, it's in its raging stage, they would have to be properly suited up. But once the fire has gone into the decaying phase where it's dying down, etc., they're doing a bit of overhauling just to sprinkle water in certain areas. They can release their tap and give them a bit more opportunity to breathe a lot comfortably in the heat. But yes, it's all about fluid intake, rehydrating themselves, and keeping above that heat.
So, with all that being said, so we talk about hydration and so forth. How is the actual water rationing, drought conditions impacting the fight by the fire service, or you guys carrying out your duties in fighting fires?
Well, it is very much impacting because there are times where we have to rely on the fire hydrant in order to replenish our fire tenders. And let me just add this statement that the fire appliance is always filled with water. Persons go around with the notion that when we arrive on a scene, we don't have any water. That is absolutely false. Okay? Whether it is the truck carries 1,000 gallons of water or it carries 750 gallons of water, the truck is always filled to capacity with water. What persons don't understand though is that the capacity of the pump, a truck that has 1,000 gallons of water can be emptied in a matter of minutes. Let's say 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, that truck can be empty. So what we have to do on our end is to monitor the water distribution through the pump, the rate at which the water is flowing out of the pump towards the fire. So the operators of the truck have to be mindful of this. You have to be mindful whenever we connect to a hydrant as well too. The pressure coming to the pump from the hydrant, it might be low. And if we are outputting more water than what we are inputting, then you still run a chance of the fire appliance running out of water, even though you have that water coming in. So it's not just a matter of just throwing water on a hose. There's a bit of science and technology that is involved in firefighting. So that is something that our drivers and operators are staying abreast with. So yes, the drought situation impacts us at times. We have to call water department to turn on the fire hydrant, especially within certain hours of the evening. When they start to ration the water, and then we have to turn to other stations as well to come in to back us up, so that especially the airport. Now the airport is a station that it really moves off of the airport. It is there to facilitate those planes that comes in. Now in instances where the airport is closed, then we have that slight leeway of getting a truck off the airport. However, those trucks at the airport, they are very huge. So there is limited areas that those trucks can maneuver. So it's not just a case where those trucks are just, once the airport closed, they are just called to go anywhere, wherever there is a fire. The terrain, the area, the size of the road, we all have to take that into consideration in terms of gaining assistance from the fire tenders at the airport. And they do play a very integral role in assisting Bastia. We had reason to call them on a number of occasions. They carry about 3,000 gallons of water, considerably more than what we in Bastia carry. So once a truck of that size reaches on a scene, then we breathe a sigh of relief even more in terms of water capacity.
I think you just educated a lot of people in St. Kitts and Nevis, because I've heard that same notion that the fire service, and I've heard the argument and the cries from the people regarding that statement or misconception that the fire service turns up on fire scenes without water in their trucks. So I think you further educated them a little bit more on the intricacies of what actually goes on in terms of what's coming out, the output to deal with the fire.
But they have been saying that for a long time, Jermaine. So I think it's about repetitive education. You have to repeat it over and over and over, like you're speaking to a toddler. That is the problem right there.
But it could be a cultural thing as well, you know.
We remember what we want.
The thing is, right, and this is what I've come to recognize, right? We as humans, and the turn of the century, and with the invention of social media, we complain when things affect us, but we prefer to talk about our neighbor. So we're only going to talk bad when something happens and we see something happening that's affecting us, but we're only going to literally speak the facts when something is affecting our neighbor. We're going to go on social media and share all of that, but that's for another discussion point.
What I would like to add, right, for those persons who, you know, take up the fight in terms of disseminating information to the general public on a daily basis. Any emergency, they are there to capture it and distribute it. A lot of these notions are peddled through their media. So what I would ask them to do, I encourage them to do, is stop by the fire station on any given day. Engage any of the supervisors. Ask them, hey, can I see if there's any water in your truck? And they would see indeed that there is always water in the truck. So I would encourage them to pass by any time, have a conversation with the fire department. Ask them, hey, can I take a look at your fire truck? And that would clear up a lot of misconceptions. So when they arrive on a scene and they see the fire department in action, they can safely say that, hey, guys, what you're saying, you know, especially when persons are messaging on these lives and things like that, they can indeed go and say to them that, hey, this is not true. The fire department do have water at all times in their trucks. Water runs out though, because we do not have an infinite supply of water. We have to rely, like I say, on the fire hydrant. So it's locating a fire hydrant, the closest fire hydrant, connecting to it, etc. There are times when the fire hydrants are not in the immediate surroundings of the fire, so we have to leave that scene, go to where the fire hydrant is, refill, and then come back to the fire scene.
And that's a valid point, because I was just about to ask a question in terms of what happens in the event that you have more than one calls. Let's say you're out on a scene and there's another one that's happening, let's say in the vicinity, let's say in Bastia, for example. You're on the scene of a fire, and then you get a call about a second one, and you just completed battling the first one. How does it go about? How do you guys go about doing that? I think you started to answer that.
So, two things can happen there. One, prioritizing. Prioritizing in the sense that if we are dealing with a bushfire and we get a call of a house fire, you know which one takes priority. Yeah, the house fire, of course, takes priority. So we would, if it's that unit that has to respond, we would leave that bushfire and attend to the structural fire. Another avenue that we take as well is to ask our neighboring stations for assistance. So we would, if it's Bastia, then we would call upon whether Sandy Point, Tabernacle, to come in and assist the unit in terms of dealing with a particular fire. One can go to the secondary location while the other is dealing with that fire, especially if it's a fire that you cannot really leave to go to the other one. You call for backup. The station would come and deal with that fire. So we complement each other.
Okay. Sounds good. At this point, we have to acknowledge the people who make the program possible, and then we'll continue with the discussion here on Inside the News.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM. The South, 98.9. Win FM.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will. Guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind. TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
And we are back here on Win FM. We're on Inside the News today, and we are discussing the major issues, including fire here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, we have with us Ms. Ilana Weeks and Mr. Timothy Martin, and we are here trying to make it, as the young people say, make it make sense for you to get a better understanding in terms of exactly what's going on and the major issues impacting your lives here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And before we took the break, we heard from Mr. Martin about fire and everything about fire. And I think one of the things that we didn't touch generally is children and fires. How's that been? How have you been seeing that? I know every year during the summer, the fire service holds a 1-week session with children. When you look at the statistics, have you seen a decline in that area specifically in terms of children and house and fires at home and so forth?
Yes, we have seen a great decline in fires that are started by children over the years. When that program, our fire safety camp, so to speak, summer safety program, came on board, the numbers were horrible in terms of fires that were started by children. And it was an initiative that was started by Miss Natalie Foe. She was an inspector in the fire and rescue services, and she saw the need to implement that program in the federation, and through that program, educating the children on fire safety, we saw a drastic decline over the years with fires starting by children. That program, it gave the children an opportunity to even educate their parents about the do's and don'ts when it comes to fire safety. So very often we would hear a parent would come and say, well, after that, the sessions, my child would come home and say, well, mommy, daddy, you ain't supposed to do this. And, just giving them gentle reminders of the things that they're not supposed to do regarding fires. However, I would like to say, sadly, it's we still have the occasional fires by children. So we want to encourage persons, in spite of the efforts from the fire department, and the parents have a role to play in terms of educating their children as to the do's and don'ts when it comes to fire safety. Do not leave matches, lighters, anything that would start a fire for children to play with. Those should be put away on a shelf up high. So you don't leave room for the minds of the children to start to wander into that area. What we often tell the children, the parents work hard, very hard, to accumulate the things that you have. So whether it be their favorite toy, the clothes, etc. Parents work hard over the years to accumulate those things, and within a matter of minutes, all of those things can be lost. A home can be fully engulfed in flames, and your parents lose everything. So we try to paint that picture to them so that they would understand that, hey, this thing is very serious.
When you said that, I laugh. In terms of putting the
Matches and lighters,
away,
etc.
because I tend to put them very high, and I tend to hide them from myself as well. So,
I thought you were about to say that when you were small, you did something terrible.
oh no, not with my mother. Sorry.
Okay. Just before I left the house, I gave my son that usual pep talk about the stove. If you're going to use it, remember to monitor it and do not move from there until you are finished, and make sure you turn it off. All the whole works.
And that's the thing. I think at times we as people and as a society, we stop short of holding ourselves to that standard where we educate our children, our family members, the society. We expect the police force to do it, we expect the government to do it, we expect the fire service to do these things for us. But people would gravitate more to information coming from somebody that I'm close with or somebody I communicate with on a regular basis than for me to depend on others to actually be able to get that message across. And I think that's where we as a society, we're dropping the ball, because I shouldn't be depending on the fire service to come and teach my children not to play with matches, not to play with fire. That shouldn't be something me as a parent should be telling my kids and harping in the minds of my children that this is what that you're not supposed to be doing. And too often times we depend on quote unquote the authorities to do the relevant talking and education for us.
So my pep talk to the parents would be, think about how hard you work to accumulate, your home, your appliances, your the essentials that you have in your home. Think about how hard you had to work, maybe the long shifts, working extra hours, etc. And for all of that to go up in a single, let's say 3 to 4, 5 minutes, because you left a match down for your child to play with. Think about that. Let it resonate through your minds, and see the need to educate your children about fire safety. We will assist you as much as we can, but the onus is still on you to educate your child.
So, Martin, we had quite a bit of structural fires last year. Did you guys go back out, try to reach out to some of these families, because quite a bit of families lost a lot?
I can't speak for all, but I know there were one or two that I engaged in conversation to see, how are they, keeping, how are they doing. But that is something that we can do a lot more of. Show them that, hey, we're not just here to just extinguish a fire that you had, but show some interest in that
The
person.
rebuilding,
Yeah.
the rebuilding of their lives, because a lot of families last year, when I really think about it, one too many, but there were several structural fires. Some went right down in blaze, and I think we saw different people and also organizations. I think I saw one or two on NEMA. They were asking for assistance, for some of these families, clothing and whatever people can get to give them.
And that's critical as well when we talk about the whole issue of fire and rebuilding. But what I want to get from you and on this same specific area, do you think, and I don't know if you would have this information at hand, do you suspect that some of the fires, and I know you guys will be conducting your investigations and the police will be carrying out their investigations, but do you believe that some of these fires are suspected to be because of either the way the houses were constructed or because of how the wirings were done in some of these homes, that could be some of the problems, could be the result of some of the problems that we're seeing right now?
All right, so I can't say definitively what the issues may have been. I'm not a part of that team who goes out to do the investigation, the arson investigation team. However, what I would say though, some encouragement that I would give to the community is if your home was built so many years ago, then you probably need to take a look at your wiring. The wires that were probably installed in your home may have been of a certain grade. Now, in today's society, you have so many different appliances that you may have added to your home, and that could cause a strain on your electrical system. So we check your wiring, make sure that the size of wires that you use is the proper one based on your needs for today. Also too, in terms of congestion inside of your home, persons they tend to have a lot of things that they don't need. So your home might be filled with clutter. If you get rid of some of those clutter, make your home a bit. I'm sorry if I might not be putting it over in a proper way.
You can't put it out any better. That is exactly how you're supposed to say it.
But get rid of some of the clutter. Have a more open and free, a breathable home. If, for example, a rag that may have been soaked in oil, if you put that rag in a room and the temperature is of the right temperature, then that rag can instantaneously go up in flames. So if you have a cluttered house and you have something that may have some oil-based substance on it and so on, that rooms get to a certain temperature, not realizing that it can actually start a fire.
And some of the material that the house built with too depends
Right.
on the chemical that is inside that too.
Yeah.
And next thing too, getting out of your house. Remember, he talked about clutter. Sometimes people can't get out. And then you look at some of these apartments today, they only have one way in, one way out.
Well,
So all of that needs to be paid attention to. That's a big topic right there by itself.
Someone made a comment during Christmas. It was funny at the time, and now that you said the whole issue of clutter, I kind of chuckled because the person indirectly was saying, where did all of these things come from? Because you saw the big bins that were around, and you saw some of the things in the bins, you were wondering, people really stored
These
these
things?
things, right? So it was kind of funny when the person said it at the time, but now that, it is being said, you kind of wonder, these things really do indeed aid in, fueling the fires in homes and escaping. But we do have to put a pin there right now because we have to break for the midday news. Yes, our good friend Mr. Brown has prepared the midday news for us. So I have to break at this time, and then we'll continue with the discussion after the program. So I must go now. So we'll break for the midday news, and we'll come back just about 12:35 thereabout. So in the meanwhile, do stick and stay tuned to Win FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM. You found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com. When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories. St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister provides more details on financial education and savings program announced in 2024 budget address. Madia Fire Commission of Inquiry report handed over to Guyana's President Irfan Ali. St. Lucia's Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Peer clears ear on draft tax legislation. Internationally non-aligned movement leaders slam Israel's Gaza campaign. Now the details. During the 2024 budget address on December 13th, 2023, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, announced a financial education and savings program aimed at educating the youth of St. Kitts and Nevis on finance with an added investment. According to the Prime Minister, the program will include topics like budgeting, saving, investing, and entrepreneurship, and understanding financial markets, one of the broader aims of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB. Governor of the ECCB, Timothy N.J. Antwine, has recently lamented the state of regional stock market participation. He says the central bank aims to increase awareness and trading to bolster wealth creation in the region. The program's target young individuals aged 5 through 18. Specifics of the program also dictate that each young citizen receive a savings account with an initial deposit of EC $1,000. Half of the funds will be invested as shares bought at a government majority-owned company, such as St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank or the Cable, upon divestment. How will the program be financed?
Part of the funding would come from our savings within the government to really start it. It would, of course, be shares will be attached, and so we hope the dividend from those shares will also form part of how they're going to grow the accounts. Without getting to all the details, I'm thinking that they're going to present me their proposal next week or week after. But I can say basically that is the foundation of the program. So in terms of where the initial funding coming from, so we're going to work out the details of the shares. How many shares, which companies, the dividend from the shares, how that is going to grow, the savings from the account, how that is going to grow. So we also have, I think, private sector people in there as well. And so we are happy that the private sector and financial institutions and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have really embraced this revolutionary, innovative type of plan so that our people, once and for all, would have the opportunity to break any cycles of poverty.
Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, during the January 19th, 2024 broadcast of The Edge with Devon Cornelius. The government will lead the program headed by Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta, who will put a team together to manage the program. Prime Minister Drew said the aim is to have the program fully operationalized during the first half of 2024. Details on the accounts and which financial institutions will house those accounts will come at a later date. The Finance Minister said the program is expected to be continuous, and as children become 5 years of age, they will be indoctrinated into the program.
So it's almost like when you enter into primary school, you get your vaccination. So you have to get your vaccination, your medical checkup, and your account. That is how we're going to set it up. So how we want to set up, you get all of that, your account, and your device, your iPad. So once students get into primary school, we want to fully equip them for school and for life, so that it will be part of it.
The Financial Education and Savings Program is a collaborative effort between the government, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and other partners. A task force for the program is in place and comprises representatives from the Cable, the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, the ECCB, St. Kitts and Nevis National Cooperative League Limited, Bankers Association, and other critical financial and legal experts. In regional news, Madia Fire Commission of Inquiry report handed over to Guyana's President Irfan Ali, Guyana News Source reports.
The Commission of Inquiry, which spent more than 2 months investigating the circumstances surrounding the Madia school dorm fire, handed over its final report to President Irfan Ali this afternoon. The COI's chairman, Major General retired Joe Singh, said the devastating fire, which claimed the lives of 20 children last May, was as a result of arson, confirming the earlier reports by the Guyana Fire Service and the Guyana Police Force. He said the report is the outcome of 2 visits by the Commission to Madia and neighboring villages in Region 8, where the victims lived, and testimonies from 29 witnesses. 14 of those witnesses provided written statements in addition to a number of reports. Retired Major General Singh said the Commission was able to gather sufficient credible evidence to ensure its findings fulfill the mandate as defined in the gazetted terms of reference. It was noted that the Commission's findings are based on evidence and expert reports received regarding the investigation and the circumstances and the cause of the fire.
Based on the evidence, we concluded that an individual intentionally set the fire. In summary, and notwithstanding this appalling act of arson, we determined that the events and circumstances leading up to and the causes of the Mahdia female dormitory fire were an unfortunate outcome of several factors. The influence of the mining culture on social relationships within communities, the vulnerability of youth, in particular teenage female students, the influence of adults in the mining sector who groom young females, in some cases with the tacit support of family members who benefit financially from such arrangements.
A 15-year-old girl is currently facing 20 murder charges over the deaths of her schoolmates in the fire. The COI chairman said the commission found that the fire service and education officials in the area were negligent in the execution of their mandate. He said while the hearings uncovered several inadequacies with regards to the lack of firefighting resources at the dorm, it was agreed that a better equipped dorm would not have delivered a different result due to the cause of the fire.
We found that there was a delay in contacting and/or seeking the assistance of the Mahdia fire station. Issues such as crowd control and access to the dormitory compound encountered by the fire service en route to the fire, inadequacies of the Mahdia fire service in rescue and firefighting equipment, and the lack of available water supply to fight the fire. These factors assisted with the speed of the conflagration.
He also said the report contains recommendations and measures to address issues that led to the fire. It also has recommended that a memorial be erected at the site of the fire to remember the 20 lives lost. President Irfan Ali, in receiving the report, also called for behavioral change among communities.
We have to also be honest ourselves. We have to change the culture. Culture is an important part of some of the problems we're facing in our society. The Ministry of Education today is faced with tremendous difficulties in the behavioral pattern and changes in many schools. And we now have to work and see how we incorporate a higher degree of discipline through a systemic intervention, one in which we will have counseling, molding, even before we get to counseling, because many times counseling is after fact. How do we do molding of our young people?
The president also said the government is working on a robust implementation plan to improve facilities within both the education and health sectors and will incorporate the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Pierre clears ear on draft tax legislation. DBS St. Lucia has that story.
Concerns have been raised about the contents of the Draft Tax Administration and Procedure Act, which proposes increased penalties for unpaid taxes as well as sweeping powers to the controller of the Inland Revenue Department to recover outstanding taxes. The UWP on Thursday, January 18th, issued a statement expressing strong objection to the highly punitive measures the draft bill proposes. At a press conference convened on Friday, January 19th, Prime Minister Philippe J. Pierre sought to dispel what he says is misinformation in the public domain about the draft bill. According to him, the proposed legislation is the creation of the former Alan Shastney administration and that his administration had no input in the creation of the bill. He pointed to a 2020 cabinet conclusion as evidence.
This bill was prepared on instruction by the former government with the following instructions: to harmonize the administrative, collections, and penal provisions of the various pieces of legislation that are currently administered by the Inland Revenue Department.
Pressed by members of the media about his thoughts on the bill, the Prime Minister repeated on several occasions that he has not perused the proposed legislation, nor has his cabinet of ministers. According to him, the ongoing consultation process is being handled by the technocrats at the Inland Revenue Department, a unit which operates under the Ministry of Finance, which the Prime Minister heads. So you're telling me technocrats from your department underneath in your ministry are doing something and you have no idea?
They are doing what they have to do. They have to circulate, because you see, it only becomes important when it's passed. Right now it's a piece of paper. It only becomes important when it goes through the processes. It's a piece of paper for circulation. That's all it is.
The Prime Minister is going through consultation.
Yes.
It is important what is...
Yes, and that is why we have the consultation. But what I'm talking about is the blame. What I'm talking about is the fact that Philip J. Pierre is the one who did that. That's the point I'm making. I haven't seen it. I haven't read it.
This revelation left members of the media scratching their heads. However, the Prime Minister tried to clear the confusion.
Prime Minister, I'm confused.
If I were you, I'd be confused too, because I could not understand how people can lie like that. I agree with you. I'm confused too, because when I saw you all making a fuss of it, I was wondering what are you talking about? I'm confused myself. So I don't blame you for your confusion. Let me tell you why my good friend is confused. Because she cannot believe that you have a document that gives an instruction to prepare a bill. And when the bill is prepared, for discussion, after you give the instruction, you blame the person who had nothing to do with it. So I agree with her. I was confused myself. I said, but what really is going on? What's going on? Till I was told what was happening.
While he has stressed the draft legislation was not conceptualized by his administration, the Prime Minister, however, did indicate he had no problem with the bill in principle, as it consolidated the numerous tax laws into one piece of legislation. For the DBS News World, I am Zane Romulus.
We now bring you these international reports.
Leaders of non-aligned movement countries denounced Israel's military campaign in Gaza on Friday and demanded an immediate ceasefire. The call came during the annual summit of the 120-member bloc in Uganda. Here's African Union Commission Chair Musa Faki Mohammed.
Africa condemns this unacceptable moral, legal, and humanitarian failure and demands an immediate end to the unjust war against the Palestinian people and for the immediate implementation of the two-state solution.
The non-aligned movement formed in 1961, made up of countries opposed to joining either of the two major Cold War-era military and political blocs. Nearly all African countries belong to it, making up almost half of its members. Israel launched its offensive in Gaza after the October 7th attack by Islamist militant group Hamas. Israeli officials say more than 1,200 people were killed and 240 taken hostage. More than 24,000 Palestinians have been killed during the campaign, according to Gaza health authorities. Israel has said it's acting in self-defense and has rejected accusations of genocide, including in a case brought against it by South Africa at the UN's top court. At the summit, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa called for the establishment of a, quote, fair and equitable system of global governance. He said the war revealed the inadequacy of the United Nations, and in particular, the Security Council, where the U.S. has vetoed several resolutions critical of Israel.
The S&P 500 posted a record-high close on Friday for the first time in 2 years, confirming the index has been in a bull market since it closed at its low roughly 15 months ago. The Dow gained 1%, the S&P climbed 1.2%, and the Nasdaq soared 1.7%. Friday's rally was fueled by chip makers and other heavyweight tech stocks on optimism around artificial intelligence. Shares of server maker Supermicro Computer soared 36% after it lifted its second quarter profit forecast. That sparked gains in chip makers Qualcomm, Marvell Technology, and NVIDIA, all up more than 4%. Chipmaker stocks have gained since Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the world's largest contract chipmaker, said earlier this week that it saw booming demand for high-end chips used in AI. Its U.S.-listed shares gained another 1% on Friday after climbing 10% the prior session. Dryden Pence, chief investment officer at Pence Capital Management, says TSMC's industry dominance makes it a great long-term holding.
So when you think about AMD and you think about NVIDIA, you think about all these companies, you have to recognize that about 40% of what they do is a Taiwan semi chip. And so rather than have all those companies have the biggest thing that they have to have. And so when Taiwan Semi is so dominant, they have pricing power. Pricing power turns into excess earnings. We just saw that. And I think that that's a theme that's going to continue to go.
Microsoft and Apple, the world's two most valuable companies, also each rose more than 1%. In other company news, Travelers jumped more than 6.5% after the insurer's fourth quarter profit more than doubled. Shares of Spirit Airlines rebounded by more than 17% from losses earlier this week as it assessed options to refinance its 2025 debt maturities amid concerns over the airline's financial future. And iRobot slumped 27% after a report said the European Union's competition watchdog plans to block Amazon's $1.4 billion acquisition of the robot vacuum maker.
Next, Japan has become the fifth country to land on the moon after a craft dubbed Moon Sniper touched down on the lunar surface, but the uncrewed vessel has a technical fault, which means it may soon run out of power. Our science correspondent, Palab Ghosh, has more.
Japan's lunar lander has touched down with a soft landing, but there's been a glitch. Its solar panels aren't working, so unless it's fixed, the spacecraft will run out of power. But experts say that the mission has achieved 99% of its aims.
This was all about precision landing. They haven't confirmed the exact precision of the landing, but they're the fifth nation to land successfully on the moon, and I think that is a huge success.
Flight engineers are pouring through the spacecraft's data and will report next week on what went wrong. But an awful lot went right. They successfully tested an advanced face recognition system to home in on the landing site. And it also deployed one of its mini lunar rovers, able to hop where no rover has hopped before, but not another one, which can literally roll back the frontiers of knowledge.
It's a new way of doing space exploration, and a big part of it is to bring down the costs so that we can de-risk these missions, do more of them at a faster turnaround, and hopefully get both more science and exploration out of each one.
The team at the Open University are building an instrument for a future mission involving both Japan and India, as well as the UK. Japan's achievement is the start of a new rush to the moon. India got there last year, and later in 2024 there'll be several US attempts. And by the end of the decade, there'll be Chinese and European missions, so it's all getting very interesting. In the 1960s and 70s, it was all NASA.
On the moon one day.
But now it's an international race. A small fleet of spacecraft are on their way to lay the ground for humans to return. They're going because there are minerals and resources on the moon which will be used to build launch sites to go to Mars and beyond. And this time, the plan is to stay for the long term. Palab Ghosh, BBC News.
The biggest snowstorm in years couldn't keep these anti-abortion protesters away from Washington. Tens of thousands participated in the annual March for Life, even after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled more than a year ago that abortions are no longer protected by the federal Constitution. About 24 states have since banned or severely restricted abortions. But in the remaining other half of the country, abortions remain legal.
I believe the heartbeat in a fetus starts at around the third or fourth week, which is pretty early on, which is a beautiful thing. But many states still allow abortions before that.
The anti-abortion marchers say the Supreme Court delivered them a half win. Now they want Congress to give them full victory by banning abortions across the country.
Reproductive rights are important, but when reproductive rights impede the rights of the unborn human, then they shouldn't be allowed.
They are animated. There are many gathered here. But in the United States, people who want to ban abortions are actually in the minority. Polls show more than 60% of Americans think abortions should be legal in all or most cases, and that split will likely play a major role in this year's presidential elections. President Joe Biden and the Democratic Party hope their voters will turn out in support of reproductive rights, much as they did in the last midterm elections. While Republican frontrunner Donald Trump became a hero to the anti-abortion movement when he appointed conservative Supreme Court justices who delivered on his promise to overturn Roe v. Wade.
You would support him again?
300%.
He has said, though, that he has not endorsed a national ban on abortion, though. Are you disappointed by that?
I think it's coming.
Republican lawmakers have increasingly shied away from a national abortion ban for fear of alienating voters. That's left anti-abortion activists with an uphill battle and a new stated mission: to change American culture to make abortion unthinkable and illegal across the country. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
You were listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines: St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister provides more details on financial education and savings program announced in 2024 budget address. Madhya Fire Commission of Inquiry report handed over to Guyana's President Irfan Ali. St. Lucia's Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Peer clears ear on draft tax legislation. Internationally non-aligned movement leaders slam Israel's Gaza campaign. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Caribbean.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured. Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go round.
different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go round.
And we are back here with Inside the News. I am Jermaine Abel sitting in again today. We are looking beyond the headlines here on Inside the News. We go to get the facts, the details, and also to hear from you on how some of these issues are impacting you, the ordinary people in St. Kitts and Nevis, and what solutions we can find to some of those issues. It's all good to talk politics. It's all good to blame other people as well. But at the end of the day, this is not necessarily going to assist you or anyone by blaming or challenging or, casting aspersions. So we tend to go beyond the headlines here on Inside the News to discuss the major issues impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And today we're looking at the major issues that passed the week. During the past week here in St. Kitts and Nevis, across the region and internationally. And also we're discussing fire-related issues. We have Mr. Yolanda Weeks from the newsroom upstairs and Mr. Timothy Martin from the fire service here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But before we continue where we left off, we have to acknowledge our partners, TDC and Carib Brewery, because they make this program possible. And then we'll jump right back into the entire discussion that we had. And you can also call in and share your thoughts on what we're discussing or anything that you think is important to you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drugstore's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drugstore's curbside pickup service.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. So before we took the break, we were discussing fire-related issues, and we heard some recommendations from our fire officer in studio. Yes, and he was giving some pertinent points and recommendations. But I wanted to ask him one particular question that I find as being very interesting, and a lot of people don't necessarily do this, and a lot of restaurants as well don't do this. But grease fires and so forth, this seemingly has been the cause of several fires in recent years at some establishments across St. Kitts and Nevis. How often should people be expected, especially those restaurants, expected to clean their stoves, likewise people in their homes? Because I know you said earlier you're not necessarily au fait with the investigations and so forth, but as someone who's in this arena, how often should people be looking to clean their stoves and so forth, because it seemingly is a problem in some areas?
All right, so thank you for that question. In terms of cleaning your stove, I would say it should be done regularly. Given a number, I like to say how much times per week you should do that. I can't really say exactly that, but I could give you some tips as to how you could ensure your stove be kept clean regularly. Now, what persons can do is to use tinfoil paper and cover your stove. So whenever you cook and there is the grease that spatters from whatever frying, etc., you can just now take off that foil and throw it away, maybe wipe off the excess grease, and then you actually put back down a fresh layer of foil. Restaurants, those restaurants, they cook on a daily basis. So I would say at least once a week, take the time and the effort to clean your stove properly. Grease builds up over a period of time. Sometimes persons, they don't clean the stove at all. And then whenever you have you're frying anything, the oils, the hot oil spatters out of whether the frying pan or the oven pot, whatever it is, and then you're going to have a fire start that way. What persons tend to neglect as well is the wall behind the stove. So with all the spattering, the grease gets on that wall, and they neglect to clean it. You're going to have a fire starting that way as well. The burners, you have the fire, actual fire from the burners. You would heat the area around, and you just have to have the right conditions. The oxygen is already in the air. The fuel would be the grease for the fire, and you have an open flame. Those are the recipes for a fire right there. So persons, yes, at least once a week, especially if you're doing a lot of cooking with oil, grease, etc., clean your stove at least once a week.
I like how you said that.
I am somewhat like that, Jermaine. When I fry, for the most part, once I'm feeling good in my body, I'm not feeling sick or anything, I'm cleaning my stove when I'm done. And if you're careful of cleaning it while it's hot, right? To me, it's easier to clean your stove when it's hot,
Yes, because when that is left to stand there, it gets hard, and you have to, as my grandmother would say, put your elbow grease into getting it clean.
Right.
But you, as you mentioned that, one another question popped into my mind, specifically had to do with, and this is another concern, and I think we had this discussion recently, Yolanda, you and I, in terms of how people think when they're in a particular situation, especially when it comes to fires. So you would probably see the grease catch a fire, right, and it's burning. We tend to
do what we're not supposed to do.
Exactly. We tend to use water, and that might not necessarily be the best solution there.
You said not necessarily. I'm going to say it's absolutely not the best thing to use. Now, whenever you throw water on a flammable liquid fire, whether it be oil, grease, etc., that fire intensifies greatly. All right, so never ever practice to throw water on a oil-based fire when you're cooking. If the pot that you're using, the contents is on fire, if you have oil inside it, whatever, what you can do is get the lid for the cover for the pot, and you put that over the pot, preventing oxygen from getting to the fire. What I would encourage you to do in a case like that as well, when you put the lid over the pot, don't just try to remove the lid to see if the fire is out, because from the moment you take off that lid too quickly, oxygen gets back to that hot oil, you can have an ignition of that fire, or a reignition
I didn't
of
know
that fire.
that part.
Yes. So put the lid on it, yes, but leave it for some time for it to cool down. If you put on the lid, the fire might subside, and then you take it back off just like that, you can have that fire restarted again, and it might flare up with an intense blaze. So be sure to, when you put the lid over it. Another thing you could use if you don't have a pot cover to hand is to wet a kitchen towel and then throw it over the pot or the container that is on the fire. Make sure to turn off the burners though. Turn off the burners, and then you could use whatever it is to throw over to prevent the fire, the oxygen from getting to the fire.
On that specific recommendation, you talk about kitchen towel. Can you be more specific? Because should we use the cloth one or those? Because a lot of people have the nylon mixed in with the cloth type towels, and then you have the actual cloth towels. So can you be more specific on that?
Yeah, but the cloth ones, but the nylon one, with the fact that it's wet, you're putting, it would only take a few seconds, really. So it's not to say that the fire is going to be there burning to burn the thing, because you would wet the cloth, whatever type of cloth it is, you would wet it to ensure that once you put it over the fire, it doesn't continue to burn. Okay? But yes, most persons, they have the cloth kind, I would assume, in the kitchen. So yeah, you use what you have.
And including a fire extinguisher?
They should have a fire extinguisher. We're encouraging every single household to get a fire extinguisher. The type that you can use is an ABC extinguisher. That ABC extinguisher can deal with multiple types of fires, so it's not just specific to any one fire. So whether it is a flammable liquid fire, it is regular combustible materials, if it's an electrical fire, that one extinguisher can deal with multiple types of fires.
But as you mentioned that, we have a tendency, and again I said this during the first half of the program, we have a tendency of recommending things to people and saying things to people, but people just don't follow the rules. Let's be frank. Do you think, is this part of the building codes for homes, or this is something that we would have to include in the legislation to ensure that people have fire extinguishers in the house?
But when it comes to the building code, the building board, etc., I think that they mostly deal with the structural integrity of the home, etc. They do not look at the things that you put in the interior of your home. That is where the fire code would come in handy, and we are in the process of trying to get a fire code for the federation, so that we can legislate some of these things. The need for every household to have a fire extinguisher, a smoke detector, the way in which you hinge your doors. Your doors supposed to, especially if it's a building that houses a large majority of persons. A business place, for example, your hinges your door should be swung outward and not inward. So if in case of an evacuation, you have that mass amount of persons moving in one direction, and the person in the front is pulling the door towards them in order to get out, then you see where that could pose a challenge and a problem for persons to get out. But if that door is swinging outward, then you just push that door and everybody flows in that general direction.
Instead of going back.
You raise a valid point there, right? And that point that you raised takes me back to the situation in Guyana, for example, last year, where we saw, I don't have the numbers, but we saw those young ladies
20.
dying. Yes, right. Safety and security right now in St. Kitts and Nevis is at a point where we are protecting ourselves and the valuables in our homes, right? And we can reference a particular incident that I care not to reference right now. But a lot of us are putting in burglar bars and other safety measures. But how is that going to fit into the whole fire code when we talk about safety and security and all these new measures that we're going to put in place to protect ourselves, our homes, our families? It takes me back to that particular incident.
Now, burglar bars, they have dual roles. They have it's good and they have it's bad. Now, the burglar bars keeps burglars from getting into your house. However, those fixed burglar bars, they also prevent you from escaping in the event of emergency, because it's not just your doors can be used as an emergency exit. Your windows as well can be utilized as an emergency exit. Now, what I have seen and persons can start to wrap their head around if you're thinking about installing burglar bars, is to have burglar bars that are on hinges. So you have some sort of locking mechanism on one end, you have hinges on next, and the burglar bars actually acts like a door. All right, so you can have that locking mechanism on that end. So in the event that you have to use it as an emergency exit, then you can just unlock that mechanism, swing it like a door, and then you're able to get out of that window.
That's a valid point that you raised there, because and I don't think a lot of people think about this particular issue until something arises, right? And because we're at a point in society right now where we have to think about safety and security, this will now be something that will be resonating with them in terms of how they begin to consider implementing burglar bars and window screens and all of that. I want to ask you one question quickly, back on the topic that we were talking about, stoves. So St. Kitts and Nevis is still a developing society, but, and I think this more has to do with cost, which one would you recommend that society takes into consideration in terms of stove? Would it be better for us to have electrical stoves or for us to use gas stoves?
I don't think there is a preference in terms of whether gas or electrical in my mind. What I would encourage though for persons who use in the gas stove is to have the cylinders on the outside. All right, persons, they have small tanks. Nothing is wrong with having small tanks, but these small tanks can be stored on the outside as well, and you could just basically build a housing for it with a lock that someone just can come and just take your tank and go with it. But they can be stored on the outside, and even up to today is Saturday. Yesterday I did some inspections, and someone was telling me that because we encourage someone to place the gas tank on the outside, because they were planning to do like a nursery, etc. So we encourage them, hey, don't keep that tank on the inside, get it secured on the outside. And one of the officers, not from the fire department though, they said that they actually have their small tank on the outside of their home. So I was glad to see that someone, even though it's a small tank, predominantly we use the larger tanks on the outside, but even though it was a small tank, they thought it best to keep that tank on the outside. So yes, you store your cylinders on the outside instead of on the inside.
And that's an interesting point that you've made, storing them on the outside. In terms of those people who actually have them on the inside, I'm going to knock. I do. how do we protect ourselves? And this draws me to a point, an incident several years ago, many moons ago, surrounding the Nevis. Nevis, where there was an explosion, I think, at a particular location. What about those people? What should people be looking for, especially those people who are have gas tanks on the inside? Because a lot of us, let's be frank, do not necessarily pay attention. We turn off the gas bottle, we turn it on when we need to use it, but then we don't necessarily check to see whether or not our hose,
exactly,
if they're leaking or anything of that sort. We might smell gas in the air, but we just brush it off. So my question would be, how often should we review or take stock of our hoses, and then where do we go for those people who have gas tanks on the inside?
All right, so that's a mouthful there. Now, in relation to your checking of your hose, that should be done regularly. The LPG gas, it is actually odorless. They actually put in a special chemical in it so that you can actually smell it when it leaks out of the cylinder. Outside of that agent, you would not have been smelling anything at all. So that is something that I am grateful that those persons in that industry did. Now, your hoses do get brittle over time, and they tend to get leaks. So persons should check their hose regularly, and you can test it by having a soapy solution with dish liquid and water, and just pass it along the hose. You would actually see if there is any bubbles coming from the leaking area. Even when you install a new head on your tank, or you buy a new tank, you just basically throw some soapy solution, some soapy water, and you would see if there is any bubbles indicating that there is a leak in your gas tank. If you do get up at any point and you recognize you enter the house, you smell any traces of gas, I encourage persons to ventilate their homes, open the windows, the door, let that scent get out, and then actually try to find where that leak is coming from. The burners as well, you would need to check your knobs ever so often to ensure that they're in good working condition, etc. I don't know if I covered everything that
you did. But then a follow-up question to that would be, are we competent enough to make that decision whether or not? Because I might be smelling gas, or an individual might be smelling gas, but then we decide to review. We check the hose, we check the knobs, we check everything, but we still have that smell, but we cannot determine the location. Is it a case that the fire service, I can pick up the phone and call the fire service and say, hey, I have a problem, I'm smelling gas, whatever it is, could somebody come and check it for me? Is that something that you guys assist with, or
that
is not necessarily in your purview?
That is something that we can assist with, because then we would be preventing a catastrophe from happening. It's better to prevent something from happening than to let it continue, and then we have that issue to deal with. So yes, persons do call us whenever tanks might be leaking. We come and we check. Of course, we would recommend that the service provider of those tanks be brought into the loop as well. That whatever tank be taken back to them, etc., for them to properly deal with those issues. But yes, we can come and take a look and see if we can troubleshoot as to where that scent is coming from, etc. What I want to encourage persons to do when lighting your stove, because some persons they tend to light their stove incorrectly. Some persons they turn on the gas and then they go to get the match and scratch the match. It should be in the reverse. You should scratch your match first and then you turn on the knob so that the gas starts to seep and you light your stove that way.
I'll be like me, turn the knob and press the button and the stove will light.
That's the point I was making, right?
She has an electrical stove, I will gather. Mm-hmm.
No, but you see, that's why I was raising the point whether or not gas stove over electrical stove, because it's easier and safer for us to use that, right? But again, I'm guessing, and because I don't have electrical stove.
Why did you say that it's easier, but why did you say that it's safer? It's not safer when you have children?
Well,
because my 5-year-old at 3 could have light that stove.
I meant the electrical stove over the gas stove. Just to clarify that. Right. You see, why I'm asking that is, unlike you having to turn on
Found the sound.
Sorry about that. You know, as against you having to turn on and it's lit, and you're not necessarily seeing fire, as against you having to scratch a match and turn on the gas. So the possibilities are there of flames, of causing an actual fire, as against, that's less from an electrical stove. So
you're basically talking about, the hot plates and them the persons is you just have that glow on the stove rather than having the open flame.
So would that be the safer bet, the safer option for people going forward? Because I know the Americans right now, they're regulating every single thing to make things easier and supposedly safer and cost cutting and so forth. So would that be an easier option for people to consider?
Well, no, sorry about that. No, I can't say for easier. I mean, you don't have the flames to deal with, but depending on how you utilize your stove, it can be a problem as well. So it's all how you deal with your stove.
Yeah, you have to keep everything into consideration, make sure that you do what you're supposed to do and not do what you're not supposed to do. That's how I see it, because regardless of what kind of stove you have, you can have a fire.
Basically clean your stove.
Yes.
Clean your stove.
Okay. So at this point, we quickly take a break, acknowledge our partners. We go, down 4th Street and up that side and acknowledge our partners, and then we'll come right back and continue with the discussions here on WIN FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
People make the world go.
And we are back here on Inside the News. Yes, we were discussing fire, and fire prevention, which is critical because oftentimes we keep seeing the fire service running up and down around Bastia and St. Kitts in general. And they have a lot to do. They're not just fire service. They're fire and rescue service as well. Traffic accidents, fire, they have to take water to locations that are going through drought conditions. That's just to name a few of the services that they provide to people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'll give Mr. Martin a few minutes to give us his take as we wrap up the fire segment of our discussions on Inside the News.
All right, so now the fire services, I just want to reiterate to the general public to let them know that we play a very vital and critical role within the Federation. And this job is not an easy one. We are persons who put ourselves above others in the sense that we put our lives at risk in order to save a life. And I just want to let the general public know wherever possible that you can extend some love to these officers, show them some appreciation in whatever way. Feel free to do so. I'm sure the officers would be grateful for the whatever
whatever you can extend
whatever
to them.
You can extend to them,
appreciation,
appreciation you can extend. So even just by saying thank you, we appreciate your service to the country goes a long way.
I agree with that because we hear too much terrible things.
But you see, not only that, right? Just to interject, there was a point in time where people acknowledge, and this was raised by a media rep, you pass the police, you pass first responders, you say good morning, you say thank you. These were the things of yesteryear. We're in 2024 and we're still not acknowledging what you guys do.
Well, I can't say it's yesteryear because there are still some persons who actually do. I remember walking past a gentleman, and he saw me in uniform, and he stopped me and he said, I appreciate your service to the country, and that warmed my heart. So there are persons out there who do acknowledge. The numbers can be greater though. So just that encouraging word to the general public, such an appreciation to the frontline workers. Whether it doesn't have to be just the firefighters, the other services as well. Police, the defense force, the prison, etc. Show them that you appreciate the job that they do. The persons who in the nursing field, the EMTs, they actually put their life on the lines for you, the general public, on a daily basis.
Okay, we have a couple of callers. I'll just open the phone lines quickly. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everybody there, and good afternoon to all your listeners. Greetings once more in Jesus' name. You only save your sinners from their sin and from hell.
Caller, can you keep your comment a bit short as we continue?
Yes.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes. What I'm good afternoon to everybody again. What I'm trying to say is that there is a problem that is happening in the outer world, and it's poised to come here to St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'm warning people beforehand about it. Electric vehicles, cars, buses, you name them, all. They have a very terrible, regular, big problem with fire, just spontaneously combusting in fire. These electric vehicles. And when they bust out of fire spontaneously, you cannot extinguish them. You cannot put them out. You just have to leave them burn themselves out. Because I've seen fire people with wasting all kind of waters on them, and in the end they cannot put them out. And they are known to burn up houses, vehicles next to them, and ships and that sort of stuff when they spontaneously break out and bust out in fire. And I made trans that even a certain, at least one European insurance don't insure them anymore. It's these electric vehicles. So that's the problem we don't often hear, but it is very regularly happening with these electric vehicles, just spontaneously bursting with fire. And when they burst with fire, they are most difficult, if not impossible, to put out, and they burn down a lot of stuff that they're in or next to them and the sort of stuff. Okay.
All right. Thanks, caller.
Interesting.
Thank you for your contribution.
You need that German?
I'm not aware of that, but that goes to the question of electrical fires. You know, that would be because they're EV electrical vehicles. Well, I'll let Timothy continue.
I saw a video pertaining to a vehicle that was charging and it did it spontaneously. But I don't know what conditions might have been happening behind, if there was anything behind
that
the scenes,
contributed to it.
etc. But just looking at the video, the car was just there, and then it was like a surveillance video, and the car just but. In everything that is made by man, there are issues that arises, technicalities.
And we find solutions.
Yes.
For them. Okay. Yeah. Ilana?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, how do we deal with something like that? As we wrap up this fire section.
Deal with something like what?
No, it's more directed to Timothy. How do we deal with this particular issue? Let's say we have, because we are moving towards EVs, right? And we have to, okay, let me just interject there. We have another caller, so caller, good afternoon.
Yes. So just quickly say, the lithium battery, that is the main culprit in a lot of these spontaneous fires. Because of the technology, the lithium batteries are the main culprit in these spontaneous fires, and that you cannot put them out when they do spontaneously burst out in fire. And they burn down a lot of stuff. And this is regularly happening, but a lot of the news media are not bringing it because, people are trying to push these green energy alternatives.
Okay. I would caller.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the media is not carrying it. Lithium batteries, we've seen them being, I wouldn't say chastised because that's the word that came to mind, but we've seen numerous reports surrounding lithium batteries, especially. That's why they're saying do not put them, especially
in certain places.
In certain places, especially when you're traveling on planes, that's why they ask you not to put batteries, more specifically, in your carry-on, in your checked luggage, because of whatever reasons. But I get what a caller is saying. The concern, and this was a question that I was directing to Timothy. How do you deal with fires of this nature, especially electrical fire, because this is something electrical in nature?
Well, the caller made an interesting point. There a statement where he said, these fires cannot be put out, but all fires can be put out. You just need the right media in order to put out that particular fire. You would see fires such as oil wells. Those fires are difficult to extinguish. However, they can be extinguished. So you just need the right media. Applying water might not be the best solution. However, once you have like a dry chemical, etc., to combat that fire, you would see how quickly that fire would go down. So it all depends on the media that you have.
Interesting, and I like that perspective, because oftentimes we hear that people say fires cannot be put out. We've seen numerous international media reports surrounding chemical fires, oil fires, and the various kinds of fires, these big explosions and so forth. And you're correct. They are put out at the end of the day, regardless if it takes a day, 2 days, 3 days. So as we as humans say, what starts must end. Right, it must end.
Fuel, you have to take into consideration. You have to consideration the intensity of the heat. If you're applying a drop of water in a furnace, then there is very little that drop of water would do. But if you throw a more volume of water in that same very furnace, then that fire that seemed impossible would eventually be extinguished. So yeah, it depends on like I said, the media, the volume of media that you apply, and the coverage, the manner in which you apply the media over the fire. All of that you have to take into consideration.
Timothy, I think the callers really want to engage you to this. So we go back to the phone lines. We go back to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, hello. Quickly say this. I've seen videos where the fire people couldn't put them out. They tried the water, all kind of stuff, and they just couldn't put them out. The thing have to eventually burn off completely. So at the moment, we do not know anywhere. We do not know of any how to put these types of fire out at the moment. Maybe sometime in the future, maybe something might develop and be able to put them out. But at this point in time, we do not know how to put them out. And like I said, I've seen videos where the fire people, no matter how they try, they couldn't put them out. Okay, thanks.
All right, caller.
Thanks, caller. Okay.
Maybe we just need to take a closer look at it, follow it, see what's going on, research it, see what's going on. That's the most I would say to that.
And I agree with that.
Just
but I want to know, though, that I don't want to put my... Okay, we have another caller. Caller, good afternoon. Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
to the good fireman them.
Good afternoon.
In this country well. A question was asked to my good friend there, the fire officer, the deputy, right? And a different radio station. And he didn't answer the question properly. We want to know when that big ship come down there and passes spear, if the fire department present will be down there. That is where the country want to know, and poor people. So please answer these questions. And another thing, we want to know if the new fire chief cannot come on any of the media and talk. Let me talk fire. That's how it always used to be. All of a sudden, we're hiding for.
Oh, okay.
Come to the public.
Okay.
No.
Hold on, caller.
I gone, man.
All right, cool. Okay, I just wanted to say, right, the last part to the caller's question, right. I have had engagements with the fire chief. I just wanted to make that point. I have had interviews with the fire chief, right. Maybe the caller wants him to come on a particular program or on broadcast media to speak. But I'm not sure if Timothy can answer that question, because he cannot speak for the fire chief, why he's not present on radio. But to his questions, Timothy.
All right. So in relation to the cruise ship, now if a cruise ship is at the pier and for whatever reason it catches fire and we receive that call, we would respond. However, the ship protocols and them are a bit different. The ships, they carry their own firefighting crew. Chances are, if my memory serves me correct, they might leave the pier and go out to sea. Once a ship is not directly to the pier, There's very little that fire department can do at that point in time. The other entities, such as, well, I know Coast Guard, they had a ship that could have aided in that regard. I know that ship has since, as it were, I think it was placed on dry dock or something like that. I'm not sure if they have a replacement of that sort. I would have to ask some questions where that is concerned. But once a ship leaves port, then we do not have a fireboat that we can actively go out and assist. But I know we have responded to fires in the marina. There was a yacht on fire in the marina some time back, and we did go out and we assisted in getting that boat. We arrested the fire that was on the boat. So we do attend fires at the marinas. That when it comes to a cruise ship, they have certain policies. They might take that ship from the pier and carry it in open waters. We have no control over that at that point in time. Like I said, they have their own firefighting crew that deals with any firefighting situation that arises on that ship. I have had instances to be on board to see them do drill simulation exercises, etc. I don't know if that answered the
I want to add.
question.
I just want to follow up to that. So, is it a case that the local fire service works in conjunction with the crew on the vessel, or they just make that determination that it's more suited to get the passengers off and take the vessel out to sea?
They have their international policies. I don't know. I can't speak to specifically as to what these policies are. Maybe we need to look into it a little bit more deeper. Have some dialogue with them to see exactly what their policy is in that concern.
Okay.
In that regard.
I understand, because the vessel oftentimes would be classified as an international.
Yes, they have their own policies, etc.
And that would also be a dangerous issue. It would be a major issue to have to deal with a vessel like that at the port itself, because these vessels are basically territories by countries by themselves.
Right.
And big vessel docking in syndicates, we may not necessarily have the full capabilities to deal with something of that nature.
Now, what I would say, Mr. Abel, is the fire department, we have had discussions about getting a fireboat. Once we procure a fireboat, then that would be a whole different ball game. But for now, we only have land-based firefighting capabilities.
Okay. Sounds like a new initiative that must be undertaken by national security for us to become overarching, to be able to combat these challenges. Because, again, we don't necessarily look at these things unless something pop up. And the caller's question was a very interesting question, because it raised a critical issue there.
It was.
Because we didn't think about a major vessel sinking with passengers and we have to go rescue them, like what we saw last year with the Cameroonian migrants and so forth. But as we prepare to wind down the program, I want to ask you this though. When we look at, and this is a question I posed sometime last year to the minister, to the national security minister, right? And it has to do specifically with the proximity of buildings and the fire code and the building codes in Bastia itself, right? How often do you guys review buildings and ting codes and inspect buildings in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, I could speak to the inspections. We do regular inspections. We are called upon quite often to do inspections on various buildings or entities. Just Friday, we had 5 inspections on Friday. So we work along with different agencies. Our fire prevention unit, it's small at this point in time. We are trying to see if we can enlarge that unit and enhance it. Once we get the numbers that we're looking for that unit, we can actually take a bigger fight to the community in terms of, instead of having the institutions contact us for these type of ventures, inspections, etc., we can actually go out and do regular, more frequent inspections throughout the federation. So yes, we do inspections. In terms of what you mentioned about the building codes, etc., our fire codes, like I said, we are trying to get a fire code up and running. Buildings that are already erected, I don't think there is much we could do. Basse is densely populated with houses, so, and they're tight knit. Once a fire breaks out in a building, you know the old saying, once your neighbor's house is on fire, you wet your own. So we just have to implore on persons to actually take preventative measures, precautionary measures for their building, and each building do the same. Make sure that they call us in to do inspections. They have the necessary fire extinguishers in place, smoke detectors, etc., to keep their building safe. Have a evacuation plan, a fire safety plan in place for their building. Once each building, each owner of that building does that, then they're making the island itself a bit safer when it comes to fire safety.
Okay, as we prepare to wind up, I have to acknowledge our partners one more time before we wrap the program, and then we'll come back and we get the final words from my 2 guests in studio, and then we will continue with the program here on Inside the News. But we have to, thank the people who make the program possible. So we'll come right back. People make the world
go round. Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment, guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business, guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind. TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
People make the world go.
back on Inside the News. Yes, I am German Abel sitting in today. It's a rainy, overcast, damp, however you want to describe it, day here in St. Kitts and Nevis, more specifically in the Bastille area. As I look out the window, it seems very overcast and might be drizzling. There might be drizzles outside. You know, today, yeah, the program was a little different than we planned. We have with us Miss Ilana Weeks, you know, from the newsroom. She was giving us some insights, and then we were joined by Mr. Martin, Timothy Martin. You know, we looked at a number of issues here. More specifically, the general focus was fire in St. Kitts and Nevis and the challenges and so forth. And as we wind down the program, we will give both of them the opportunity to rap. You know, just rap, and I will call it a day because I know everybody wants to be in their house. So, Miss Weeks, just give us a quick wrap in terms of the news for the week. What were the big stories and some of what you may be looking forward to for this new week, which starts tomorrow?
All right, so as I said earlier, some of the big stories for the week gone by, we had traffic stats. We also had the Duncan Big Lice Watley Conwis Maynard saga that created quite a stir. We had the declarations. The DPP was on the program in focus this week, and I took that he was giving his final warning that public officials should go out and...
How many final warnings?
You're going to put me in that thing. The public officials should go out and file their declarations. Over 58%, he said, have already filed, so the others need to go out and file their declarations before they are brought before that special magistrate that he was speaking about. We also heard from the ECCB that they are trying to change the procedures for people who are looking to open bank accounts, making it more easier for people to do that. There were several things. Several things came up this week. A lot of big stories. I'm not usually one who keep all these big stories in my head. I can just write something and I won't remember what I wrote. I am long past that now. But coming up in the new week, I'll be looking at Prime Minister Dr. Terence True. He was on ZIZ yesterday. I'm going to be taking a look at some of the things that he said. We're going to revisit declarations, of course, because the deadline is the 26th. And then we will also be looking at that joint cabinet meeting, yes. And hopefully, I'm hoping that this week might be the Premier's press conference, hopefully.
Hopefully. And one big story that I think has caught the attention, but not a lot of people in St. Kitts paid attention to it, is what's happening over in Barbados with the Caribbean Development Bank.
Oh, yes. Yes, on the regional end of things, the CDB president, and he was sent on administrative leave until April, they said. Until April.
Yeah, so we have not gotten the why answered yet. But
yes.
Yeah.
And over in Jamaica as well with that former MP who is a suspect in the murder of his wife. So it's several things. Several things we're going to be looking at this week is already shaping up to be a good news week.
And also, while we're on that note, we have to think about what's happening internationally as well. We have the issue, the continued war, Israel, Hamas, Israel, Lebanon, and so forth, the implications of that for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
You have the continued war between Ukraine and Russia, the implications for St. Kitts and Nevis.
And we just looked at the election for in Taiwan and the implications that can come out.
China and Taiwan.
And that fight.
We have the big, I was going to say albatross around our necks, but the big issue right next door, which is the ongoing, the cases involving Trump and all of that, and the lead up to the elections as well.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's going to be a
very
very interesting
news week,
So,
yes.
I guess everybody will stay tuned and anything that happened locally as well.
And let us remind our listeners that news is 7 a.m., 12 p.m., that's 12 midday, 6 p.m., and we also have news at 12 midnight for those who might be up working or, just can't sleep. We do have news at midnight.
Okay. Well, I'll give Mr. Martin the final word. No.
All right. What is it, afternoon? Good afternoon again. No, I just want to kind of clear the air on a statement that the caller made in reference to, the fire chief, he doesn't come on air anymore, etc., etc. No, I just want to state that both myself and the now chief, we used to be regulars on 2 radio talk shows. One, the Fireproof here at WINNFM, and 2, Fire Talk at ZIZ. However, both of us, we are more in an administrative role, so we had to pass on the baton to 2 fresh faces that the viewers are seeing now in the order of Station Officer Davon Clark and Fire Sub Station Officer Level 2 Carindale Hodge. Those are the faces that they see on these 2 programs more often. We really would love to be on the program a lot more, but unfortunately, based on the exigencies of our duties, we are unable to come on a weekly basis. However, the chief, he was on ZIZ. I think it was Tuesday, I think it was.
Yeah, Tuesday.
And he was able to share or impart some information to the general public. So it's not that he doesn't have time for the radio station. He would come to the radio station from time to time. However, it won't be on a weekly basis like how we used to. So I just wanted to get that out there so everybody knows. Now, what I would like to encourage from the fire services standpoint is for persons to be more vigilant when it comes to fire safety. Your smoke kills. I wanna share this one. Smoke actually kills persons, especially in house fires. Smoke is the thing that kills people rather than the fire itself. So when persons say that they smell fire or they smell smoke, they can consider themselves lucky. So what I want persons to invest in is those face masks, them full face masks. You can purchase one on Amazon, etc., and you keep it in your bedroom, because that is the place you would most likely be sleeping at nights. In the event of a house fire in the night, you can actually put on that face mask and you're able to escape out of a house without succumbing to the smoke. All right? So you could make that little investment. You may never have to use it. Just like an extinguisher, you make that investment in an extinguisher. You may never have to use the fire extinguisher, but in the event that you have to use it, at least it's there for you to use it. Invest also in smoke detectors. Smoke detectors save lives. It is a very annoying sound once it pick up traces of smoke, so it alerts you. If you're sleeping, it jolts you to your senses, letting you know that, hey, something is wrong in the house. It's picking up smoke. And these can be placed in anywhere in the house except your kitchen. Once you are doing regular cooking, don't ever put a smoke detector in the kitchen, because what could tend to happen is persons burn things ever so often, and it would trigger off that alarm. So if you hear that alarm going off, you might just walk out or figure that somebody is doing something in the kitchen, and you don't pay any attention to the alarm. But you could put them in the hallways, put them in your bedroom, on each level of your floor. So if you have a two-story two-story house, apartment, have a smoke detector on each level. Be sure to have emergency contact numbers. So in the event of an emergency, you know who to contact, whether it is fire, police, the electricity department, the water services,
EMS.
NEMA, EMS. Make sure you have pertinent numbers. I always recommend that persons store emergency numbers in their phone as well, because chances are you won't have a phone book next to you when you're sleeping in your bed. But persons would have even their phone chucked under the pillow, so that is an avenue for you to reach an emergency number in the nick of time, in quick time. Also make a fire safety plan for your home. And if you have a family, make sure that your family practice that plan. You go over it regularly with them, you practice, have more than one way out of a building. So generally houses have a back door and a front door. Know that a window can be an emergency exit as well, so that in the event of an emergency you could utilize a window to get out. Have a meeting place so that if you're not at home and there is an emergency at home and you're heading to home, at least your family should be, let's say, 2 neighbors down. You have that designated meeting place so that persons can assemble and be accounted for. If you have differently abled persons in the home, pay special attention to their needs as well.
And elderly
persons, pay special attention to their needs, and encompass them within the framework of your fire evacuation plan, so that everyone within the home can get out safely. So don't leave anything to chance. You have to prepare, you have to plan in order for you to improve in any safety measures that it doesn't just happen just like that. You have to plan and prepare for it. I hope that wasn't too much of a mouthful for.
No, it was perfect. I think after today, people should be better informed in terms of how to deal with issues surrounding fires, what they should do, clean their stoves, put your gas bottles outside, and everything. Well, there you had it, folks. We kind of slightly over time, but there you had it. We were talking everything fire today with Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Timothy Martin, and we had with us journalist Ilana Weeks. I was Germany Abel sitting in today, and I think I'll be here next week again. Yeah. But nevertheless, do enjoy, stay safe, and enjoy your weekend. And try not to party in the rain. We're still in the flu season, so yes. Until next time, it's goodbye.